I used to be a leftist, and I can tell you that leftism is not just a set of political beliefs, it's a religion. Hey guys, welcome back to KingdomCraft, where I build this big church in Minecraft while I talk about Christianity. And today I'm going to be talking about a different religion, mostly other than Christianity. It's one of the fastest growing religions in our world, especially in the West and stuff, and as I mentioned already, it's leftism. So while I do that, I'm going to build another smaller circular stained glass window. I have a big one on this side, and I'm just realizing I missed a few blocks of glass there. And on this side, I'm going to make a smaller one. And yeah, while I do that, I'm going to talk about leftism. So, the reason that it's important to recognize leftism as a religion, first of all, is to show that you can't be Christian and leftist. You can't, well, I guess I should qualify saying you can't be truly Christian and truly leftist. You're going to have to sacrifice one. So I do know some Christians who are true Christians and will take aspects of leftism. There are Christians who are truly liberal, and that's okay, because liberalism is not the same thing as leftism. They agree on some things, and liberalism leads to leftism, but they're not the same thing. And I'm not talking about politics, because I know that leftism, strictly speaking, is a political term, so if any of you are, like, political theory nerds, please forgive me. I'm not speaking strictly in those terms. I'm speaking in more, like, cultural terms. Like, leftism, or progressivism, or social justice, whatever you want to call it, is a cultural movement, and people within that movement have a variety of actual political beliefs. Like, some leftists in America are pretty much capitalists who are just woke in terms of their social beliefs, and some are actually communists and part of Antifa. So, yeah, I'm not really talking about politics here. I'm talking about the social movement of leftism, which in many ways is its own religion. Because, religion and culture are inseparable. Cultures are always defined by what their main religion is, and the main goal of progressive leftism as a cultural movement is to sort of tear apart traditional Christian culture and replace it with progressive culture. That's always been their goal, and that's why they do have some sort of agenda. Now, when I say agenda, I don't mean there's some cabal of global elites. I mean, there could be for all I know, but that's not what I'm saying. The agenda is just that the pioneers of leftist ideology see the goal as deconstructing Christian societal values. Like, a lot of people who are leftist, a lot of the general public don't really know the philosophy that goes into a lot of these views. So the pioneers of, like, for example, modern gender theory are this guy John Money and this lady Judith Butler. Those are probably the biggest names, even though there are some other names. And they're all influenced by postmodern philosophy, which sees truth as all subjective, and they see any claims to objective truth as kind of bad, and they see objectivity as like an evil, Christian thing, which is ironic because atheists always like to talk about how they have the they're just trying to pursue objective truth. But these days, most atheists are postmodernists, and postmodernists hate objective truth. Is like during the Enlightenment, when atheism became popular among intellectuals, they were like, yay, finally, we're getting rid of religion, so now we can just pursue truth and reasoning. And atheists today are like, okay, we can't define what a woman is, men can get pregnant, and math is racist. That's what a lot of the mainstream, secular philosophy of today is. And it sounds ridiculous to us, and it is ridiculous, of course it is, but I feel like if we just dismiss it as ridiculous, we don't see all the philosophy behind it. The philosophy behind all this stuff is that objective truth is bad and needs to be deconstructed. Now combine that philosophy with sort of a religious-like belief in needing to progress society beyond traditional Christian values and needing to replace them with a completely different set of values, and when you combine those two things, you get what we know today as modern leftism. So yeah, why is it a religion? So, even like back in the day during the Soviet times, what their type of leftism, their type of socialism and communism is not the same thing as what we're fighting today. There, of course, there's similarities because it still was leftism, but even though they literally banned religion and saw themselves as the religion, it's what we have today is still more religious than what they had back then, because everything's on such a deep cultural level. That's why there's the culture war. That's why liberals and conservatives cannot agree on anything, even like what sort of music is okay to listen to. And that's why like these modern songs that are written, just in the last like few years, like 10 years ago, like music was pretty good. Like even pop music, which I'm generally not a big fan of, was pretty good. Like even the same musicians, like I don't know, and by the way, I don't really follow pop music, I just know the bare minimum, but people like, you know, Katy Perry or Justin Bieber, I don't know, they wrote pretty catchy tunes, and even if their songs were kind of lame, the purpose of their songs was not to be as explicit and disgusting as possible the way it is these days. It was, you know, just to have a sort of fun, catchy tune that you could play at parties or in grocery stores. But now, like, the new music that comes out, it's really anti-music. The purpose is not to sound good in the slightest. Its purpose is just to tear down, not to build up. Like traditional art, its purpose was to build up, but modern art has the purpose of building down. So okay, I've gone on such a tangent. I haven't even really explained how and why modern leftism is a religion. So one thing is that they are very fundamentalist in terms of having correct doctrine. So Christian fundamentalists, of course, are very particular about believing the right stuff. It's not enough just to say you're Christian or to believe generally Christian things. You need to be exactly right on everything. The fundamentalist modernist controversy back in the early 20th century, the fundamentalist Christians were like, these are a bunch of things you need to affirm. And I would agree with some of them, maybe not with others. But that's the definition of fundamentalism, saying that there are certain things that you must affirm, and if you disagree on any of these, we're going to kick you out, we're going to excommunicate you. And the same thing happens with the left these days. For example, J.K. Rowling. For the longest time, even if she was a bit weird sometimes, she was a very passionate progressive activist. She was a feminist. She was advocating for, you know, racial justice and a bunch of other woke stuff, so she was legitimately on the left. But the one issue she disagreed with was the transgender issue, and that made her a heretic in their eyes, and that's why she was excommunicated. The same way, like, it operates just the same as a religion. Now, I will admit that Christianity has done the same thing. I'm sure most of the heretics throughout church history, like Arius, would agree with the church on almost everything, but since they disagreed on something that was important, they got kicked out just for that one reason. But the thing is, we Christians are honest about the fact that we're a religion. We're like, yeah, of course we're a religion. I mean, I know there are people who are trying to, like, say, oh, Christianity's not a relation. It's not a religion. It's a relationship. Yes, it is a religion. Stop. I don't know who thought of that. Whoever thought of that probably thought he was, you know, very smart or something. But that's a really silly thing to say. I mean, I must confess, I've said it at times when I was sort of like new to Christianity and just trying out. I said and did a lot of very corny things, but we shouldn't be saying that. Christianity is a religion and it's awesome. So yeah, we need not be afraid to admit that. But the left won't admit that they're a religion, because whenever Christians try to advocate for their values, they're like, hey, you're forcing your religious beliefs on us. Even if we never bring religion into the conversation, they're the ones who want to bring religion into the conversation. Like, I'm of course pro-life, and when I advocate for pro-life beliefs, I don't bring up the Bible, I don't bring up religion at all. I only bring up science. I'm like, these are the scientific definitions of when life begins, and all of these qualifications are met at conception. Therefore, it's a human life from conception, and under the 14th Amendment should be treated as such. My reasoning is completely secular and scientific. But every single time I debate a leftist on this, they're like, oh, you're forcing your religious beliefs on me. I'm like, well, no, I never brought up religion at all. So they they don't want to be seen. They don't want us to think that it's a religion, and I don't think they consciously think it's a religion. They probably tell themselves that it's not a religion. It's just what's objectively right. But if it contradicts what has been common sense for like everyone up until now, maybe there is some religious fundamentalism involved. Another way it's a religion is that something that fundamentalist religions do, and I think this separates like fundamentalist Christianity from just conservative Christianity. Fundamentalist religions basically tell you to suspend your reason. Now, there always is an aspect of we can't rely on pure reason 100% of the time, no exceptions. There is an aspect of some things we have to believe by faith. Now, faith should never contradict reason, though. That's the thing. There should never be a conflict between faith and reason. Faith is supposed to supplement reason. There's a lot of things reason can address, but for the things that it can't, that's what we have to accept by faith. But it's completely different for to say that your faith should contradict what your reasoning tells you. So a version of Christianity that tells you to have faith even when your logic and reason is telling you otherwise, that is what I would call fundamentalism. So, for example, I don't know, the resurrection of Christ. We have a pretty good evidence that it is a historical event. Do we have perfect, beyond a shadow of a doubt, video evidence? No, we don't. So, it's not unreasonable at all to believe in the resurrection of Christ. It would be unreasonable, hypothetically, if no one thought the resurrection happened until, I don't know, 1000 AD when someone made it up, and we know exactly who made it up, and we know exactly how the belief got started. Then it would be irrational to still believe in it. But that's not the case, and that's never going to happen. Now, I know there is a bit of a difficulty because hypothetically there could be some weird case in which someone is deceived into thinking that's the case, but I don't know. The point is, generally speaking, reason is not supposed to contradict faith, but faith is meant to supplement reason. Now, in fundamentalist religions, it's different. In fundamentalist religions, they're like, you shouldn't even use your reasoning at all. And I've heard leftists say this, actually. Like, when the BLM movement started, it was really just running on pure emotion and energy for the first few weeks. Like, it started with the whole George Floyd thing, and seeing that video, without knowing the context of it, everyone was just running on pure emotion. Even myself, I must confess, in the first few weeks of the BLM movement in June 2020, I actually took some of it seriously. I was still a bit leftist back then. I took some of it seriously just because I didn't know much better, and I took too many people's word for things that I should have been more skeptical of. Eventually, a lot of people, myself included, came to our senses and realized, yeah, a lot of what this movement is saying just doesn't make sense. They're arguing based on emotion rather than, logic and reasoning. And what we were told, what I was told at least, is like logic and reasoning is just a tool of the oppressor to oppress people. So they're like, oh, logic and reasoning, that's just a weapon that you're using against us. That's like the white man's weapon. It's like, okay, that really sounds kind of racist if you're saying reason is a white thing. But they always contradict themselves. It doesn't matter. But the point is, they're telling us to not use reason. So anyone who tells you to not use your reason, to just accept their beliefs because you should, that is the definition of a religious fundamentalist. Like, I don't know whether I'd call myself a fundamentalist. It depends on how you define fundamentalism. There are things I think are fundamental to Christianity, and you can't be a Christian without believing them. So by that definition, I guess I would be. But I never tell people to not use their reason. God gave us brains, and using our reason is always a good thing. Now, using our reason is different than relying exclusively on reason, because our reasoning, of course, has its limits. But like I said, I don't tell people to believe or do things that go against their reason and common sense and stuff. So that's another way in which leftism is a fundamentalist religion. And the third reason, finally, is because of the whole existential purpose that it provides. So every religion has an eschatology, meaning has a view of like what the end goal is, what's the end game. And of course leftism is no exception. They have in their whole system of beliefs, they have an end game. The end game is this leftist socialist utopia that they want to build. And they believe that conservatives really, even not just conservatives, anyone who's not a leftist really, is standing in the way of this precious utopia, and therefore they are like the worst people. So I guess I'll close with this. The leftist religion, since they don't believe in a literal heaven, they feel like they're entitled to heaven on earth. That's why leftists are the most entitled people, and think there's always some injustice when they experience even the slightest inconvenience in their lives. And at the very same time, since they don't believe in a literal hell, they feel the need to create hell on earth for those who oppose them. That's why they're so into cancel culture. Now, we think that the idea of hell is like bad and leads to like hate and stuff. That we a lot of progressive Christians say, oh, belief in hell is a hateful belief. But actually, if we believe that God takes care of punishment and justice, that means we don't have to. So that's why Christians are free to forgive, because we know that all injustices will be corrected by God, and everything that needs to be punished by God will be. So that's why we don't need to carry out vengeance ourselves. But because the left is atheistic in their philosophy, even if individual leftists are not atheistic, because they don't believe in any literal divine judgment, they feel like they are the ones who need to carry out divine judgment. Okay, that's about it for this video. I'm going to speed this up while I build the other side of this stained glass window, and then my next episode I'm going to actually fill it in with stained glass. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.